You eat with your eyes before anything goes near your mouth. It's very obvious to me, food that's plated for Instagram and food that's plated to go to a customer.
Who really is sort of inspiring you, pushing boundaries?
That's confidence that Gareth will have grown out of years of training and learning. A lot of their dedication can go into making that beautiful looking plate of food. It was a cookbook with no recipes in it. The photography was the key part of the book. Phenomenal in terms of the pictures.
Yeah, they're art.
Delicate, arty, pretty, all of those words.
Inspiring people to want to do it. What made me realise how much styles have changed, maybe not so much in your sphere, but with cookbooks. I look back at, say, Jamie Oliver's cookbook from 15, 20 years ago, and the photography and the styling is clearly not a hugely important part of the recipe, possibly. Whereas if you look at them now, it's almost a thing that inspires people to go and buy it and try it, isn't it, really? So from that point of view, from a photography point of view, I've really noticed that changed. Absolutely. And I was just wondering from the technical point of view from restaurants, because obviously visuals is always important in food, how that's changed. So for example, if it was 50-50 when you first started in terms of when you're designing a plate, the aesthetic to the taste, would you say that balance has changed?
Yeah, it's difficult. Again, it would depend on who you're talking to. Okay. For a chef, it's always, for me, we'll always start with the quality and what it's going to taste like.
Yes.
However, you eat with your eyes before anything goes near your mouth. And if it looks appetizing and you've created something that's very delicate, arty, pretty, all of those words, people will probably go, whoa, look at that. You know, and you may well, a little bit of saliva may appear in your mouth and are you ready to start eating your
It certainly does.
Yeah, just going back to the cookbook things, really interesting point. There was a time when cookbooks were not picture-led at all.
Absolutely.
And they were just recipe-led. I think one of the big changes, and it's going to do my head in that I can't remember the name of the photographer, but was Marco's White Heat book.
Okay.
Was one of the first books where it was brilliant spiels of Marco, you know, bemoaning his customers and talking about people coming into his restaurant and treating it like a living room and upsetting his wife and all the rest of it. But the photography, might be Bob somebody. Okay. The photography was the key part of the book, and that was one of the first sort of big influences in the cookbook change. And you're talking, that's Marco at Harvey's time, so you're talking a long time ago.
So did that have an impact on you?
Absolutely, yeah. I've got it, and fortunately I've been fortunate enough to meet him and he signed it for me. Brilliant. I haven't got a hard copy, I've only got a paperback copy, but it's still brilliant, and I have it somewhere in one of, I don't know whether it's at home or in a pile of books somewhere else, but and then from there, you know, you then go to people like Gordon. I think one of his first ones was called Formulas for Flavour, something like that, or Passion for Flavour. Fabulous book. And I was encouraged when I got into better quality dining. The chefs always said to me, you've got to be looking at what other people do. The Essence books by David Everett Matthias, beautiful books. And you look at the vivid colours and the styles of the food and you think, oh, it's like being in their kitchen with them without being in their restaurant. And, you know, young chefs, you might not have an enormous amount of money to be tripping around, but a £10-15 book gets you in their mindset.
Absolutely. And
I think I probably would look at the pictures before you would go and have a look and see if the recipes actually work.
Yeah.
But yeah, the cookbook thing, I mean, and now cookbooks are to a penny. You know, we were offered deals at the Miller for cookbooks, and I just didn't want to do one because I didn't feel like, I mean, whatever, I didn't know what was going to happen in the future, but I didn't feel like our journey was complete, and I didn't want to document it at that point. But I've got a lot of friends that have got fabulous cookbooks. Yeah,
well, I can tell you as well from first-hand experience, the amount of investment in time it takes to do a cookbook as well. Yeah. You know, just because it's you, isn't it? Yeah. You know, it's a bit of a cliche to have you on a plate, but a cookbook really is, because it's every single one of your recipes. You know, you've got to look through the images and all that kind of stuff.
You probably need a member of staff with you. You probably need somebody with you to help you. Yeah. Design the food, plate the food, make sure it's exactly as you want. You've probably got to do 2 or 3 of each dish at the very minimum. I was in the job I had before at the Crown before I came over to the Miller. I was party to some of the work they put into the dinner by Hestons book, and it was relentless for like 9 months. Yeah, you know, constant over, and those books are phenomenal in terms of the pictures.
Yeah, they're art, aren't they?
They're art. Yeah, they really are. And I think Ashley did give me a book called Studio something.
Okay.
that was a cookbook with no recipes in it.
Yep.
And it was, you opened it up and it went that way and then that way, and you just turn, and it was just beautiful, artistic food pictures.
Yeah.
Really important and great for everybody. Great for everybody to be able to enter the world of a chef through a fabulous picture.
Yeah, especially to that degree of it, which is not home cooking, but it's aspirational. It's,
absolutely,
you know, it really is that inspiring people to want to do it.
Absolutely, and I mean the home market is probably sells greater than the more ones that are maybe aimed more professionally.
Yeah.
You know, you mentioned Jamie Oliver, but if I ever went to any of my family's homes, you're talking like Lorraine Pascal.
Yeah.
I didn't even know Lorraine Pascal was. My mum was like, "Oh, follow this for this," and like, what?
Yeah.
Who's this person? And I'm sure there's an abundance of others.
Yeah.
Really important, those visuals.
Yeah. No, I absolutely agree. I'm going to cut in here for just a second to say, if you're finding value in this content, in finding a fresh perspective on food visuals, then I've got a small favour to ask. Why not give this video a like? It's a simple way to show that you're enjoying this food journey with me. And even better, if you've got a few minutes, then a comment would be much appreciated. Perhaps you've got something interesting to say about the visual side of food, a brilliant plating technique, or maybe even mention a chef who you think is a master of plate design. And if you don't want to miss any other videos in our podcast series with chefs, then please hit that subscribe button. Your support will help me to continue to bring the world of food aesthetics to YouTube, and hopefully to create more content that you'll like. Remember, every like, comment and subscribe will help this channel to grow, and it will hopefully enable me to bring even more content that you'll like. So thank you so much for being part of this culinary community. But that's enough of that. Let's go straight back to the video with Nick to find out how food style have changed over the years.
If food styles change, I love modern influences. I was loving modern influences 20 years ago when I started.
Yep.
They're different. They were different then to what they are now.
And has the importance changed? Has the importance of how I don't like the term, but Instagrammable a plate of food is? Do you think there's more?
100%.
There's more on it. Okay.
100% for most people that are within the industry. It's very obvious to me, food that's plated for Instagram and food that's plated to go to a customer. They're two completely different things.
Okay.
You don't even necessarily need to cook some food if you want to make it look nice, if you want to keep the colours as vibrant and as fresh as they possibly can be looking. I would describe that as Instagrammy type food. Again, I've been lucky enough to work with the odd food artist type people that have contracts with some of the big companies, and they might work on like Waitrose magazine or something.
Yep.
You know, and they'll talk to me about how they create colour. You know, broccoli is a good example of that. They won't cook it; they'll just rub some oil on it and leave it raw in a plate of food.
Obviously, we talked about maybe Marco Pierre White being one of the people that inspired you in his book and as a chef. Who sort of nowadays is kind of pushing the boundaries of plate design, more plate design than possibly, you know, the cooking itself? Because let's just assume it's going to be good.
Yeah.
Who really is sort of inspiring you, pushing boundaries?
We've taken a lot of influences recently from some of the Japanesey food, which has been wonderful for art. Again, quite simplistic. They take key ingredients.
Yeah. Great ingredients.
Great key ingredients that are super, super quality. And then they don't mess around with them too much. And that is really the essence of where my brain is now with food.
Yep.
People that I follow and look, I mean, God, the Instagram's full of chefs. And really excitingly, each year comes round, 2 or 3 more, 4 more emerge.
Yeah.
There's a young lad who was in the Hind's Head when I was over there called Alex Payne. He's now the head chef at the Tudor Pass at Greg Foster's, which
another one
near Egham.
Yep.
And they've been down there, he and his team. He's gone away and done his learning as you do, and they create really pretty looking plates of food. But they're in a wonderful environment where they only do 16, 18 covers a night. So a lot of their dedication can go into making that beautiful looking plate of food.
Yep.
I really like Gareth Ward up at Enisea. So that's been going for quite a long time. His food is a big, long tasting menu. So you will have an element of protein with a sauce or a ketchup, and that's it per plate. And I find that intriguing and interesting if you're working in a restaurant that delivers that sort of food.
Is that confidence again? That sounds like that.
Super confidence, super confidence. And that's confidence that Gareth will have grown out of years of training and learning, and then getting the opportunity to go and do it for himself. Who else do we look at? Jonny, who I used to work with, who's at Trivet. They've got more an a la carte type dining operation. So instead of it being a tasting menu where you've got maybe those smaller individual portions, perfect bits and pieces, you've got more of a plate of food. And their plating is always, I mean, obviously that is linked and comes out of the Fat Duck style.
Okay.
That style of restaurant is very specific, and very, 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 very careful with making sure everything is exactly right all the time. But on the a la carte, Jonny at Trivet, their food's lovely. And the way it looks, again, they're lucky. They've probably got links into some of the really high-end crockery suppliers. I tend to follow the guys that I aspire to a little bit.
Okay.
You know,
I do the same with photography.
And when I say aspire, I don't necessarily mean in terms of how I cook, more about how they've created their careers, how their careers have developed. Perhaps I've been lucky enough to brush shoulders with them a couple of times. Perhaps they've been to see me and enjoyed some of the bits and pieces that we do. I've got a really good friend, Tony Parkin. He's not in the UK anymore. He's over in Ireland. His food is fantastic. And you've worked with him. I know Tony. Tony's a really brilliant guy, because spade to spade with Tony, but he's got whatever it is. You know, when I first came across him, Mary and I were camping somewhere down in Sussex, and he was with Graham and Garrett down at the West House, is it?
Okay.
And we were just like, oh, well, let's go. We were just literally like, should we go out for dinner? We went there, and I was like, this is brilliant. And the food was really interesting. There was elements where things were on plates and the waiters came out and did a bit of finishing, a bit of grating of foie gras, that sort of stuff. You know, and all of that theatre really creates interest on the plate.
I agree.
Tony's food's brilliant, and he's a really good guy as well. Very honest with each other.
Well, it helps, doesn't it, really? You know, a creative endeavour, you kind of need that honesty of that's rubbish, or, you know, when you get a brilliant or, you know, something positive, it actually means something, doesn't it, really? And there we have it, a brilliant deep dive with Nick into the world of food aesthetics and plate design. Today, we've enjoyed the evolution of food presentation, from humble cookbook to the glitz of social media, all under the expert gaze of Chef Nick. And if you've enjoyed this conversation and are eager for some more, then I've got something for you. In another episode of this podcast series with Chef Nick, we delve deeper into the art of plating. You'll see Nick plate one of his amazing dishes in real time, revealing his process behind every design decision. I'll link to it right here. It's a fascinating deep dive into Nick's way of thinking when it comes to plate design. So as we wrap up for today, if you found this video interesting, it'd be amazing if you could give this video a like. Drop a comment too. Perhaps you found a new perspective on food presentation, or you've got your own thoughts on which chefs out there are really pushing the boundaries of plate design. And lastly, please don't forget to press the subscribe button if you haven't already. Your support and encouragement will really help me to bring more content like this to the channel. So thanks so much for joining me on this conversation with Nick today. It's been such a pleasure to have you with us. So come on, grab a fork and get involved.